Good morning to you. Let me call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and I may have one more council person joining us, but we do have a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and start. And so I'll call the meeting to order this morning, and I will ask Reverend Green with the Baha'i Faith to lead us off in prayer today. Okay.
To the city council, the mayor, and all of my friends and all the people that I have not met, I'd like to say good morning. And I hope that this should take no more than 4.5 minutes. Let us pray. O merciful God, thou who art mighty and powerful, O thou most kind Father, these servants have gathered in this assemblage. These souls are seeking thy confirmation from thy boundless grace, O God. Make this assemblage radiant. Make the hearts merciful. Confer the bounties of the Holy Spirit. Endow them with a power from heaven. Bless them with heavenly minds. Increase their sincerity so that with all humility and contrition they may turn to thy kingdom and be occupied with the service of the world of humanity. May each one become radiant. May each one become a radiant candle. May each one become a brilliant star. May each one become beautiful in color and redolent of fragrance in the kingdom of God. O kind Father, confer thy blessings. Consider not our shortcomings. Shelter us under thy protection. Remember not our sins. Heal us with thy mercy. We are sick. Thou art the physician. We're needy. Thou art rich. O God, endow us with thy providence. Thou art the powerful. Thou art the giver. Thou art the beneficent. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
That's excellent. Okay. Thanks. Next this morning, I'm joined by Paige Harris, who's a fifth grader at the Trinity Lutheran School, and some of her classmates in the fifth and sixth grades are going to help me with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Great job. Mayor.
Oh, and she needs you there. She had a handle.
Okay,
Right.
come on back up. Brian, they'd like to have the emblem in a picture. Y'all step up here. We'll put that sign behind us. Come right here. You can get your picture. You come right there. There. Here. There. How's that? Let's go just a little so we're centered. Oh, y'all are doing so good. Did you put on your politician smile? All right, here we go. This morning I have a couple of proclamations. The first one is concerning Nutrition Month. And is Betty Teston here? Good morning. How are you? Good. How are you? Good. Betty's with the Big Country Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. It's a local organization for dietitians and members of the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. The proclamation. Whereas food is the substance by which life is sustained, and whereas the type, quality, and amount of food that individuals consume each day plays a vital role in their overall health and physical fitness, and whereas there is a need for continuing nutrition education and a wide-scale effort to enhance good eating practices, now therefore I, Alvin New, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2013 as National Nutrition Month.
Our theme this month is Eat Right Your Way Every Day. So not just during the month of March, we want you to practice good nutrition habits, but think about your nutrition every day for a healthy life. Thank you. Thank you.
And come on up. A proclamation today for Lutheran Schools Month, March 2013. Today is accepted by Ron Fritsch, who's the principal of Trinity Lutheran School. And let's read a proclamation. Whereas, for over 150 years, Lutheran schools have provided communities, states, and the country with Christian leaders in business, politics, military, ministry, education, and other fields. And whereas National Lutheran Schools Month is also an occasion for schools to interest citizens in volunteering their time and talents to local Lutheran schools. And whereas Lutheran schools have provided a quality Christian education program that has inspired students to serve others through civic engagement and provided students with opportunities to serve while equipping them with the tools they need to fulfill their future role as good citizens, productive employees, and compassionate leaders. And whereas locally we are joining with Trinity Lutheran School as they celebrate almost 63 years of service to our community. Now therefore I, Alvin New, Mayor of the City of San Angelo, Texas, on behalf of the City Council do hereby proclaim March 2013 as National Lutheran Schools Month. Thank you. You bet. You'd like to speak?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, and all the City Council for this proclamation. We also want to thank the entire San Angelo community for supporting Trinity Lutheran School for the past, as you said, 63 years. Trinity currently has 230 students or so enrolled, 2-year-olds through the 8th grade, with the plans of extending younger to 18-month-old and going through high school. So we're excited about the opportunity. We celebrate this month with thousands of Lutheran schools around the state, around the country, and around the world, the opportunity that we have to integrate the Christian faith into sound academic education. And so we're excited about this opportunity and about the continued opportunities here in San Angelo. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. And I truly believe that this may be the city council in the next 20 years. They did have their politicians' minds.
Up to now, I thought you were acting in their best interest.
Thank you. We need to go back to class.
No? Okay. That's interesting. At this time, the council takes public comment. Public comment on all items on the regular agenda will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or a consent agenda item to be identified and requested for consideration by the council at this time. The council may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. Do I have anything like that? Okay. Do I have public comment this morning?
Yes, I have a public comment. My name is Jerry C. I'm a member of St. Paul Baptist Church and a member of WTOS. Good morning, council and staff. Yesterday, I made an observance yesterday. I was coming through an area and I saw these people out in the yard. And you could see where they had watered all around the side of their house, and they were shooting water all over their windows because of the rain, left these water spots, and all in the front yard, the pecan trees and all of this, water running all down the gutters, you know. And I thought about how soon it has been since you changed the ruling on the water. It hasn't been that very long. I know that we have water supposed to be coming, but that water from the aquifer was set up to take care of the citizens of San Angelo in case of another drought. But we know that there's all people coming in again, and it wasn't set up to take care of all these people. Now, we're going to have a problem because they're going to use more water than the citizens of San Angelo with this drilling and stuff that they're going to be doing. And right now, I know pray for rain, that's good, but God's time is not our time. And we're going to have a problem with our water. And I've talked to a few people that I trust their knowledge in water, and they have very good knowledge of the water situation here in San Angelo. Now, you giving people the freedom to do what they're doing. I don't blame. They have that freedom to use that water any kind of way they want to, with no fear of anything happening. But that's nonsense. I got water spots on my windows. I washed my truck and I felt guilty, you know, because it's these people that are coming in, it's going to be a big boom. It's going to be a lot of people. And the aquifer was set up and was gauged to help the citizens of San Angelo. But you did not take into account these people that's coming in and the water that's going to be used in the operation of these oil wells. So forward thinking, it would make me believe that maybe you should start up some gauging of the use of this water again before we run into a problem once they get here. Thank you very much for your time, and that's just a little food for thought. I would appreciate you giving it some time to think about it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Other public comment at this time? Okay. Let me just ask you to consider a couple of things. Number one, if you're a small business, the Business Resource Center's grand opening is this Wednesday at 4 o'clock. I'd love for you to attend and see some of the opportunities that are available there for you for the improvement of your business or the start of a new business. The Business Resource Center grand opening is at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. It's on Chadbourne Street, 69 North Chadbourne. There's another item this morning that's important to us, particularly as the elections are about to occur. There will be the ample opportunity for folks to, at this time, volunteer for certain boards. The City Council relies upon the advice of 18 boards and commissions covering a wide range of topics. It could be the animal shelter, zoning, planning, any number of other important areas. This is a great way to shape and serve your community without putting your name on signs all over town. And let me tell you, I appreciate everyone that's running for election. It's not the easiest thing to beat your chest and tell people I'm the one when that's not really your nature. You have a desire to serve other people, but this is a way that you can serve other people, and you don't have to go through that putting your name out there for asking for votes. But anything that is your passion, anything that you bring specific knowledge to, we'd love to see you apply. You can go on to the city government link at the city's website, which is sanangelotexas.us. Or you can go to City Hall and go to the city clerk's office on the second floor to get an application. But we'd like you to consider applying to serve on a board or a commission to help move the city forward. It's also a great way to prepare yourself if you are inclined to run for office. Voter registration. In order to be eligible to vote in the May 11th City Council election, voters must be registered by April 11th. And that takes place in Ed B. Key's building downtown, where the old library was. So if you're not registered to vote, you have until April the 11th and to be eligible to vote in the May 11th City Council election. So those are some announcements and things that we'd like to see you think about, and I hope some of you apply for membership on a commission or a board. Okay, anything else, folks? All right, at this time then, I have a consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Was that Mr. Silvas? I have a motion for Mr. Hirschfield, a second from Mr. Silvas to accept the consent agenda as presented. Call for that vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, let's move forward then to the first item on the regular agenda. Where's Mr. C? There he is. Now, I want you to pay attention to how fast we react to what you say. Right now, I've got an update on the design and construction activities for the Hickory Aquifer Water Supply Project.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Today we have Hutch Masalam with Corolla Engineers here with us today to give us an update on the Hickory Groundwater Project, and at this time I'll turn it over to him, let him get started. Hutch.
Thank you, Ricky. Morning, Mayor and Council. Good morning, Mr. Valenzuela. Hopefully we'll be able to give you a quick update about the progress to date, and then open it to questions. I'm sure we didn't we kept it high profile, and we'll be open to questions. We're going to talk today about the 4 different project elements. Obviously, the transmission main, the booster pump station in Wellfield, treatment, and then the new groundwater wells. The transmission main is the 63-mile, 30-inch pipeline that a lot of you are now seeing getting closer to San Angelo. The notice to proceed was January 23rd, 2012, with a substantial of completion date, contractual substantial completion date of July 16, and a final completion date of September 14. At this point, we do not have a reason to believe that this substantial completion date will not be met. We're about 80 to 85% on the Digley-Berry. That being said, obviously the project is a little bit, the completion is about 70%. This is an overall view of where we are, and this progress was taken as of March 4, so we're about a couple weeks behind. Main reason is we submitted the presentation a couple weeks to be on the agenda. What we see, I mean, just as a summary, if you remember, we have some restrictions on the Black Gap Veery area near the Ford Ranch, and so we allowed a third Digley Berry crew, added that through March 14. We added an inspector and allowed the contractor to do that at no additional cost to him. And that helped basically finish all the Digley Berry activities in the Black Cap Veery area before the nesting season. And work right now is progressing in both directions. A lot of people are seeing the pipeline close to San Angelo. Valves and appurtenances, work ongoing with Digley Berry. The only thing that is critical at this point is the pressure testing. And typically pressure testing happens as you do the Digley Berry, but because of the location or because there was no water near the Digley Berry, we're needing to wait till we get to a fire hydrant in San Angelo and to connect to one of the wells in the Hickory Aquifer. So the pressure testing will probably start next week or the week after next. This is a few pictures laying the pipe in rock. There's a lot of rock, and that was a little bit challenging to the contractor to go through these areas. You see some of the encasement and the bagging of the pipe to prevent corrosion down the road. It's just a valve, one of the gate valves that were designed to be able to isolate portions of the pipeline if they need repair down the road.
And that thing's about as big as a person, right? If I stood next to that, it'd be
At
taller
least,
than me,
yeah.
right?
And yes, sir.
Okay, that's huge.
That's
that looks
big.
so small. I mean, somebody need to stand in that picture because it's big.
Yeah.
Hutch, let me ask you a quick question.
Yes,
the
sir.
pressure testing, how does that work? I guess you cut off a valve and
It's between joints. It's between joints and valves. You cut up. Right now they are actually filling the pipeline slowly. So when that happens, they cut the joint and then they pressure and see if there's any leaks. Okay. In a perfect situation, when you have abundant water, you do that as you finish the Digley Berry. You take a section, you construct a section, you do the pressure testing. But since we didn't have water, we allowed them to go through and do the Digley Berry until they reach a section, until they reach the water. With the booster pump station in Wellfield, the notice to proceed was June 18 last year, and a substantial completion scheduled for June 18, 2013. We're at about 50% right now, and most of the work is on schedule or ahead of schedule, except the cleaning of the wells, the existing wells. So as far as the booster pumps, the pump cans are set, the backfill is pretty much almost complete. Foundation for the well buildings underway, most complete. Even the roof, they were working on the roof for the electrical building this week. The High Point and Well 6 tank foundations are underway. I mean, we're blowing and going. Well cleaning is underway, and then I just wanted to alert council of this potential delay to the current schedule due to longer than expected cleaning and retrofitting of the existing wells. And so, if I may take you back a few months, and just a background on these wells, they were drilled in the beginning of in the 70s, probably between 71 and 73, and during the preliminary phases, we did a cursory evaluation on the wells and did some videos, general videos, to see how they stood. And there were some potential obstructions or items that were identified in the videos. And, obviously we did not have as-built conditions, so the TCEQ requires these almost 40 years old wells to be cleaned, and basically they, return it back to almost new conditions. So that was a conditional approval that they have during the design phase. And so after the cleaning, we'd have to go back and do additional videoing and making sure, confirming that, it's in a condition that's acceptable by regulatory agencies and by the engineer as well. So what's hindering the schedule? Some of the obstructions took a little longer time to get fixed. For example, well 4 had an obstruction. I guess it was a packing plug. We're fine now. It got removed. There's still just a little bit of an annual ring around it that remains on the casing, but that should not affect the pumping. Contractor drilled it. There will be air purging and cleaning the well soon. We already were successful in removing obstructions and repairing to 3 other wells. We found 5 holes in well number 7. And we're fixing the ones that can be fixed, and otherwise we'll just rely on pumping and chemical analysis. Well number 1 liner casing slipped. That should not be affecting the pumping capacity of the wells, hopefully, but we will be testing that soon as well. This is just some building on the booster pump station and electrical building. This is about a 3-week-old picture, and right now it's a little bit more further along on the building. Same thing with the booster pump cans. I think we did pretty much, the backfill is complete. This is just another shot. And the underground electrical at well number 1. The third project element is the groundwater treatment plant. And what that includes is a groundwater treatment facility at the surface water treatment plant. It also includes a disinfection facility for the groundwater facility, but also that can be used for the surface water treatment plant. Associated civil and piping. For general progress status, if you remember, the radium removal system supplier was selected in January and was approved by council in January. A notice to proceed was given to them on February 6th. The overall final design has been underway for quite some time, and the anticipated completion is April 30th of this year. That's when it will be sent to, sealed by us, by Carollo, and sent to the Texas Water Development Board and Texas Commission on Environmental Quality for review as an approval. Took a couple layouts, just pictures of locations where we're doing the groundwater facility is on the right. And then the disinfection facility, which is a significant size as well, is on the left. This is just a blow up of the facilities. The disinfection facility will house all the chlorinators. We'll have liquid ammonium sulfate feed systems as well for the disinfection. And the existing facilities were not in compliance, so we needed to have facilities that would comply with the regulatory standards. We're also in the event that there's a chlorine leak. These facilities are designed to have a scrubber system to take care of any chlorine leaks and be safer to the health of the workers and the nearby citizens. As far as the groundwater treatment facility, it's a pretty significant size, designed for ultimate capacity, overall size-wise, but not necessarily the equipment. This is what, a rendering of the groundwater treatment facility. It's pretty large. The building is about 208 feet by 133 feet. Extends about 14 to 16 feet in height. And that's what it will look from the inside with all the different equipments. That 3 blue tanks are what WRT would be designing, and everything else is auxiliary equipment that we are designing in Corolla in conjunction with the WRT system. So that radium removal is just the blue tanks. And this is what it looked from. This is about the disinfection facility, 105 feet by 64 feet. It was fairly significant size. That scrubber, the scrubber is outside. That would be activated if there's a leak or a spill, and it can treat the contents of 1-ton cylinder. And that's how it's going to look from with taking the roof off. One of the features here is that it will allow a truck to go inside, and the operators can actually load and unload the chlorine ton cylinders inside the building. It'll be a little bit more contained and safer for the people and the citizens. So
Is that disinfection in addition to our current, or replacing?
Replacing.
Replacing.
Because yes.
Because it was not up to code. Okay.
And we wouldn't want to.
I understand.
Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah. And that was taken into account when we were looking at the cost estimates initially. So
Okay.
the post-design key milestone, and so where we are right now is we're going to send it to TCEQ. It'll get there May 1st. And it takes about 2 months for review. So we're hoping that we'll have a response by June 30th this year. We'll advertise the project around the middle of May, and we'll talk to Mr. Banks and Ricky and Kevin and city staff. Hopefully we'll bid project just a week or so after we get approval from TCEQ. And then we'll make a recommendation to council. Hopefully there's nothing that, that would prevent us from doing that. That is, if we don't, hopefully we get a good contractor that we feel could do this work, would do this work. And then if that's the case, council approves it in July 16, and it takes 3 weeks, and then Texas Water Development Board would then release the funds in August. And then once that happens, construction can start. About the new wells, where we are, we were fighting or working with the regulatory agencies to allow us to do some work, the cleaning and grubbing of the future sites of the wells during the non-nesting season. And where we're able to do that, and the cleaning and grubbing of the new wells is complete. So the phase 1 engineering for drilling new wells is underway. We actually submitted a draft document to the Water Utilities Department this past Friday for their review and for the city's review. And we will send the final sealed document to TCEQ and Texas Water Development Board, same on April the 30th. It'll have the same schedule as the water treatment plant. Phase 2 engineering is will follow a few months after that, and we'll start the design in May 2013. That's the interconnecting piping between the wells. But first, we have to make sure that the location of the wells works before we can do phase 2. And with that, I will open it to questions.
Okay.
Comments,
questions?
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna start right here, Mr. Hirschfeld. Then I'm gonna go to Mr. Silvas, Ms. Farmer. I'm just gonna flip back and forth. Okay.
What's your substantial completion for the expanded well field?
For the?
Expanded well field.
Well, we believe that this is going to take approximately 15 months to drill the 5 to 7 wells. So it'll probably be and I don't have the numbers in front of me, maybe September 2014,
How many months?
Now, that right there is for the,
for the treatment.
that's for treatment,
Yes.
correct? So, tell me again, for.
Well,
the wells?
we don't have it here, but, and I could be wrong, a little bit off, but I think at this, if I remember correctly, we're saying September, October 2014 for the drilling of the wells, of the five wells. Takes about 3 months per well, and we're thinking that we're going to do
Two at a
about
time.
2 wells at a time.
And they come online 2 at a time? Do they come
No.
on?
First of all, we drill the wells,
Right.
and then there will be another contract to do the interconnecting piping and equipping the wells. So before it comes to, I think it'll be 2015 before this comes to line.
Okay, so you're saying September?
At the earliest, if everything
At the
works well,
earliest.
at the earliest, September for the wells. Yes, September 2014 is
As
the
long as I stay on the
earliest.
string, Mr. Mayor, can I keep asking questions so we can?
Well, let me finish
Go
mine,
ahead.
please.
Yeah,
Mhm.
keep it going.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we start
I got you.
drilling on September 14.
We're
correct?
hoping to start drilling before.
I guess, it just seems like this is our critical path.
For the new
Correct.
wells.
We're truly beyond that for the well-being of San Angelo.
Absolutely.
This is the critical path. Fair statement? Okay. And I guess I'm a little disappointed that we're, because if you're talking 15 months to drill, and we're not going to start until September, that puts us right around, what, little math of January of 16?
15.
16. Am I missing something?
Kendall, I think what he's saying is we're going to try to start drilling this September, not September 2014,
Yeah, this September.
13.
13.
I thought you said 14.
It will be
Complete.
should be complete
That's-
by
It's-
September 2014.
It's 5 to 7 new wells, depending on how much money is expended,
Correct.
okay? 2 at a time. So September of 13, September,
You
October,
scared me.
November. September, October, November. Hopefully 2 wells are online, November of 13, not online, completed.
Drilled.
Completed,
Yes.
okay? So then you would use that equipment and move it to 2 more wells.
Yes.
So then in theory, December, January, and February, you're gonna drill 2 more wells, and those would be completed. So that's February of 14. So then March, April, May of 14, you would do the last 1 or 2, depending on money. And then you start tying it into the booster pump station and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, it'll be another
right?
contract, but, this is, the problem here is we have got 2 restrictions. One is the environmental restriction of black cap vireo, and we have to be very careful on, you cannot just, we may have to wait when we can construct and we can't. And the other thing is the hunting season. Hunting season between October 15 and January 31st. So 4 out of the 7 wells that were identified were in black cap vireo area. So these can only typically be drilled and worked on between September 15 and March 15 of any year.
But that's doable.
It is doable.
Because if you start with those, you'll be drilling in September and December 4
There-
of the
yes.
They're
wells,
not
and that's
in-
the
in,
4, that's the 4 wells.
It's doable.
Season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
I mean, we worked around things, that we had this 2 months where, January, February, March, where we wanted to take advantage of that, and so we went and got some went around Texas Water Development Board, got approval to do the cleaning and grubbing of the wells to allow us to hit the ground running, and I believe we had that meeting, and
Correct.
and
That's a
and
good
so that
Okay,
we really
I'll
do-
stand corrected that I thought I heard you say September 14 is when
If
you're
I
gonna
did,
start
I
drilling.
misspoke. My
All right.
apologies. No,
That's much better.
this is going to TCEQ April 30th with the environmental assessment. We're pushing it. We want to get this thing started. And the minute they say the money is released, it's approved, notice to proceed, hopefully we find good contractors. We'll give a notice to proceed with your approval and we go.
Okay.
Okay.
New wells-oriented question?
Yes. Okay, we've got to have an understanding first that
New wells.
we have about 18 months of water from about right now. That's about maybe 19. So October 2014, we're running out of surface water, and we have to go to this water. And our wells are being completed in November 2 wells in November 13, 2 more wells February of 14, 2 more wells February, maybe 1 or 2 May of 14. One more fact. The amount of water from the Hickory that we can get per day right now with our current capacity is about 70% of what we use in our homes, indoor use only. It's not enough water. And so these 2 wells or 4 wells, if they were hooked up, we're good to go indoors. And those extra last 1 or 2 wells, maybe we could water some trees with those, maybe.
Well,
So it's really important about hooking them up.
Hooking up is not is a complicated process because we're going to have to design, first of all, we have to drill the wells and make sure that this actual site that we estimated gets the pumping is a good location. Once that is confirmed that it's a good location, we do the pumping test, then we design the facilities around it from electrical, which also has a long lead item, to equipping the wells with the pumps, to putting fencing around it, to connecting the pipelines at the proper elevation to the main feeder that goes to the booster pump station.
To that last step,
Yeah.
are we going to wait for that last step, or are we going to go ahead and connect it in 2 at a time? Because that's critical.
We can. It makes. Well, if you do it ahead of time, you have a good chance of redoing the work because you don't know for sure if this well is going to be, if that location is going to be exact. So
Okay.
the question will come back is how much risk will the city want to take?
All right.
And then we can work around it.
So on February of 14, if things are dire here, we do need to probably take a chance.
Yes.
And so we need to revisit that. The council definitely needs to make a
Okay,
decision on
one
that.
thing, I agree with you. Now, I do want you to take one thing into account, though, that you're not, okay? Remember, in all these projections of how much water we have and how many months of water we have, under ordinance, so under the law, we cannot add the first wells that come online in the projection.
Oh, I'm not
Okay.
adding any wells in the
Well,
projection.
and the point I'm making to you is when you do add that water and start blending some water, your projection will get extended.
About
okay?
a sixth.
So just at least walk yourself through that, okay?
Right, so about a sixth.
Okay.
Uh,
So any rain,
With blended.
any rain plus an extension. So even, I mean, the worst case scenario is not as bad as what you just described because it's got to be extended some just from blending. Okay, so you've got to walk through that math a little bit, and
So up to
then go from there.
3 months, 4 months,
Yeah,
maybe.
there you go. Okay, so then probably April of 14 is when you're, somewhere. I mean, you guys should start talking about it January of 14, but probably April of 14 or somewhere in there is when you've got to pull a trigger if you start taking any chances
Okay.
along the lines. Okay.
And you would probably start design after you got pump tests done.
We're actually, yes, we're also going to take some chance because we don't want to make you wait 6 months to. So we believe that the locations are good, and we are going to start design pretty quickly. We're hoping to start with the furthest drilling with the furthest 2 wells, and if these furthest 2 wells work, then it is more than likely that the others will work. So hopefully, we'll have that design in place.
Right.
And get ready to go. So we're very sensitive with the timing of this project. But believe me, we're doing everything we possibly can to meet the schedule and make sure that we meet all the regulatory compliance and loan requirements.
Okay. Ms. Farmer?
Yes, Hutch, What regulatory compliance have you not met that you have not cleared yet?
Well, we've met all of them, or we're meeting.
Your first line says regulatory hurdle cleared
Hurdle,
and
yes.
clearing.
Yes. Okay, this
That's
is.
two separate things. That's clearing and grubbing.
Yeah.
And grind, that's the clearing of the
Okay.
land.
This is where we there was an area, but that area, for example, was a new area that was not looked at the first environmental assessment. So when we started looking at the new wells, remember that when we started with the project, these new wells were not part of it, and they became part of it because the bids on the pipeline were low. There was some money left in the loan. We said, let's just use it to get additional, well capacity. So there was this new area of wells that we're starting to look into it, and apparently it has black cap vireo habitat, which is an endangered species. That's our luck. We have an endangered species that's affecting construction activities. So in order for the city to meet the loan requirements from the Texas Water Development Board, you have to meet basically all environmental assessments and regulatory, all these things that require you not to do construction in certain periods of time. So it takes about 3 to 6 months to get approval. We were able to go around it in a way to get temporary approval to get the clearing and grubbing done for this new well sites during the time where you can do that, which is basically January through March 15. Otherwise, we would have had to wait 7 or 8 or 9 months to do so, and that helped us, or that would help the overall schedule when you start with the drilling the wells, because you already have the clearing and grubbing done. All you need to do is, start mobilizing and drilling the wells instead of waiting 3 months.
That
So
bought
that-
us 2 months?
Actually, I think the boss, at least 2 months, yes, sir.
Do you have further questions on new wells? Okay, I'm going to recognize Mr. Silvas.
Hi, Chuck. Excuse me, my question is, I'm looking at the site layout slide. The groundwater treatment facility, are we talking about the same thing as that's the radiation treatment?
Yes.
Show me, or tell me where that pipe is coming into the city. What path is it taking? I can't tell from that first slide, but what area of town, I know it's the east side, but which way is it coming into the treatment facility?
You gotta go way back.
No, I don't think we show that. Oh, yeah.
Ariel?
This pipe here is that blue pipe. You see that 24-inch raw water, RW? It's coming, and I don't even, lost my north from the south, but that's that.
That green line?
Actually, the blue line. We
blue
connect
line.
it to a 24-inch line when we get to the plant.
Is it blue up at the top?
And then it goes to the groundwater facility from the south.
But my question is it coming down Paint Rock or by Goodfellow, or where's it coming? That's what I want to get a visual.
I'll have to.
You cutting through neighborhoods, or you cutting through?
Just a second. He's going to, we got Mr. Kruger to try to help answer your
Okay.
question.
Okay, the raw water main comes in along, that's Avenue K, that's Metcalf is along
No,
the bottom of the pipe.
I think what he's talking
Right.
about is from the loop to
Okay.
right there.
I'm gonna work backwards,
Got it.
please. Okay. So, as we come in Avenue K, we go up towards the Red Arroyo Draw. We'll cross the draw, we'll go across Avenue L, and we're gonna follow the river back through Jackrabbit Trail. We'll cross Jackrabbit Trail, go along Jody Road, cross Old Cristoval, and then we're back on some private property going basically cross-country.
Okay.
Back to Shahan Road, and then Fairview Road, and then back to Loop 306 or US 87. So
Okay.
that's the approximate route.
Okay, yeah, my concern was if you were cutting through neighborhoods, but it looked like you're going along the river. That's what I wanted to hear,
Yes,
is
sir.
along the river up Jackrabbit Trail. That gives you an idea, more or less, of what I was looking for, so.
Thank you. Do I have someone else to recognize? Okay, sir, I think we're good to go.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Go
Yes, sir.
On the your treatment. I mean, again, I know that the sanitizing station is a brand new. The treatment is that an or in addition to our current treatment. Go back to the.
Do you understand this question?
The disinfection facility
No.
is in lieu of.
No, keep going. I know that that's a
See,
replacement.
we know that's replacement. He's asking you on
Go
the.
back.
This is new.
Keep going back, right there.
This is all new.
And that's replacing.
In
No, that's in addition
This
to.
is groundwater. This is the radium removal.
That is strictly radium removal.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where the LRK building is?
Yes.
You're gonna remove that and it's just brand new building
Correct.
there?
That's all new.
What was that, endangered species I missed?
Black-cap vireo.
It's
What
a
is
bird.
that?
It's a bird.
It's a bird.
It's a bird, and it nests certain times of the year, so they don't get to disturb the mesquites, or they don't get to have loud noises. All these things. So it tastes like owl. Is that what you said, Mr. Morrison?
You know, it is, the way this bird is made, it's gonna extinct itself without the help of man, because, you know, it nests low, it nests at probably a couple, 3 feet above the ground, and it's prey for snakes and other reptiles and things of that nature.
I did
I've
have
never
one
seen-
more, and see if I can find the slide. Let's see. Oh man, I had the question, and it was on the wells that you're drilling
Yes.
at so many certain feet. See if I can find it. Oh, at that 2,000 foot level. The pressure at that depth that it's talking about, explain. I'm trying to understand that. What does that mean? The pressure at that depth is it 5 holes in the well 7 casing slide and all that.
You know, when the swaging, according to the contractor, becomes more difficult when you go deeper in the well. So.
So one of the things that I'll try to, you help me, okay? But one of the things I'll try to make clear, recognize that the water is very deep, but there's enough pressure or head pressure that our pumps are not nearly as deep as where the water is. So there's a certain amount of pressure, Mr. Silvas, hitting the system, forcing water up the casing. So like our pumps are like at 500 feet, even though the water's at 2,000 feet. We don't have to go all the way down to where the water is with the pump, because the pressure from the water system is pushing it up the pipe. And so I think what's going on here is that they're saying the pressure down there at 2,062 feet is forcing a different need an approach so the one at 64 feet and the one at 1,128 feet have different water pressure involved from the natural system.
Because that water pressure would have been dissipated as you go up.
So all the water is not 2,000 feet deep, or is it all the wells are over 2,000 feet?
Well, that's the water, but it has pressure. When you get to it, it gives it, like you said, it gets it to a few hundred feet below.
But I mean, are we talking about all of them 2,000 feet deep?
2,000-3,000 feet. Yes.
My goodness.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But you have some pressure, which is good. So, you know, if you didn't, then even the pumping cost would have to be.
Right. I mean, I remember from previous presentations that, I mean, it would be much more expensive if we were having to put those pumps all the way down. But
It's
we're
still not cheap,
so, right.
but it would be even worse.
Well, you made a comment a while ago. You said if the money was there, isn't all the money there?
No, it's how much it costs per well, Mr. Silvas. It's not that the money's not there. It's that we as a council said we want 5 for sure wells. We'd like to have 7. So like before, we said we want all of this stuff done, and we think it's going to cost 120. The bids came in at 90. So then we said, all right, let's take the gap and use that to get some more wells. Now what we're saying is we got X amount of money here, $15–20 million here, that we're going to spend bringing new wells online. If that $15 million will bring on 5, then it's 5. But if for some reason we can get 5 for $12 million, let's spend the rest of the money getting a 6th one and a 7th one. So it's not that the money's not there, it's how far will it go?
Because it's all been budgeted. It's all
Yes.
under the 120. That's all I have. Thank you, Hutch.
That's less his world than it is our world, okay? The budgeting part. But that's what Mr. Dixon or Mr. Valenzuela could tell you, that it's the matter of how far will it go. And we want as many wells as the money will give us. That's the idea. Okay, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, number 18 is the first public hearing and consideration of introducing an ordinance amending the 2012-2013 budget for new projects, incomplete projects, capital projects, and grants. Presentation by our budget analyst, Steve Mahaffey.
Good morning. I will briefly touch on these 4 amendments. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me at any point. The first amendment is an RLSS grant. Originally, the state had cut this grant by 19%. They have since agreed to go back and give us an additional $22,402. So we will just need to amend our budget to utilize those extra funds coming back.
So you're getting extra funds and you're amending accordingly.
Correct. The original grant was set, I don't have that exact number, but
Steve, will you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you turn that off or get out of that presentation? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Y'all good on that one?
Yeah, I don't think we have any concern about accepting more money.
Okay. The second amendment is in reference to a Texas Historical Commission grant. We applied for this grant to perform a planning and feasibility study for the restoration of City Hall. We have since sent in for reimbursement of those funds. We have received those funds, so we're just needing to budget for receipt of those, in the amount of roughly $25,000.
Questions for him on that one? Okay, we're good.
Thank you. The third item is in reference to the streetscape project, also known as a downtown pedestrian project. What we're needing to do is take an additional $93,284 out of the TIERS downtown fund balance to assist in for funding for this project.
Questions for him on this one? Okay, sir.
Is that north or south, or what is that?
He said the downtown fund.
Right. This is taking funds out of the downtown, the South Tiers fund balance.
I mean, we are going to
okay.
do something later on down towards downtown, are we not?
Well, this project is that.
What's happening now, that 3rd Street and all that?
Correct. As far as I know, that's correct. Right.
It's
As far as the
the
operation.
Chadburn, I believe that it's the project that's the curbs and everything on Chadburn, North Chadburn coming south into downtown.
An additional 90,000? I
From
thought
the
that had already been
Here, I see Mr. Bailey.
budgeted, or I thought all the funding was there.
We had spoke to back in, actually this has been spoken about back in 2010, 11, October of 12, and August 12. We've gone different routes with this, and as far as I know, we're trying to utilize all the fund balance on this, as well as a grant that we received. So we're just, again, trying to utilize all that fund balance.
Are you wanting to add? Do you have something to add? No? Okay.
I think he was going to speak to the project itself.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mahaffey, what I heard you say just then was there's more to do than we have money for, and as money becomes available, you keep adding money as it becomes available. Is that what you just said?
Well, as far as the project scope goes, again, I can't speak exactly to the operations of this and how all the funding came about. Mr. Schneeman would be able to answer those questions. As far as I know, the total project cost was originally budgeted at $957,000. The bid went out, and it The contract, or the bid came in at roughly 1.2 million. They were able to negotiate that down to roughly $1,155,000. So because that bid came in a little higher than we anticipated, we're now having to reach to the fund balance.
Okay, Mr. Silvas, did that help me? Okay, are there other questions on this one or any challenges to that one before we get? Okay, we're okay, Mr. Mahaffey?
The final one is a project. This is to maintain our state mandated and contractual obligations. This project is roughly $250,000. Some of the funds, about roughly $130,000, will be coming out of the state office building fund balance. The additional $120,000 will be coming out of the debt service fund balance. You have any questions on that one?
Okay, questions on this one?
Talking about the downtown fund?
No.
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 He has moved.
State office building.
Yeah, he's moved to the state office building and funding related specifically to it.
And what does that mean, maintenance? What are you going to do to it?
There's again, Mr. Bluthard would be able to answer the majority of that, but I know that there's carpet, roof heaters, sprinklers, maintenance that just needs to be done that we're contractually obligated to do as the landlord of that building.
So we lease that out to TABC,
Right.
TCEQ, et cetera, and these are things that we're responsible for related, really, I know there's been a roof leak, for instance, and then replacing some carpet and things like that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Mahaffey, I think you covered everything then. Do I have a motion to accept this?
So move. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the budget amendment, okay, as presented. Any further questions of the gentleman? Any public comment on this item? Call for this vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Move on then to item number 19. This is the public hearing and consideration of adopting a resolution authorizing the adoption of the 2013 to 2018 capital improvement plan for the city of San Angelo. And we have a presentation today by our budget analyst, Laura Brooks. Good morning.
Good morning. This is the adoption of the 2013 to 2018 capital improvement plan. Just to summarize where we've been with this, we discussed this with you back in November, started the process in December, and accepted projects from the project managers. In January, the CIP committee reviewed the projects, and in February, we had public meetings. We also discussed it with you again in February and had the strategic planning meeting where it was discussed in detail, and another discussion on March 5th. So we're here to adopt this today. During the strategic planning session, we defined the capital improvement projects as level 1 being infrastructure priority, level 2 were other projects within the 5-year time frame, and level 3 are future projects outside of the 5-year plan. A summary of those projects, we have 33 infrastructure projects contained in the plan for $402,808,769. Level 2 other projects, we have 48 of those for about $85 million. And level 3 future projects, there's 116 of those at about $244 million for a total of 197 projects, $731,600,000 roughly. So we're here today to adopt this plan.
I think that the work's been done and that adoption of this makes good sense, and then the discussions about individual projects take place as time goes by. So can I get a motion to approve this?
Second.
I have a motion from Ms. Farmer and a second from Mr. Hirschfeld to approve as presented. Do I have further questions or comments from council?
I have a comment.
Comment from Ms. Farmer.
While I have Laura at the podium, I'm going to do this. I had requested information in this plan and other plans and through Michael Dane, but in dealing with Laura, which I'd never dealt with before, very quick, very polite, and very professional, and I truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Fast return on the information, and good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do I have any public comment on this item? Okay, let me call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Folks, let me ask you, are you happy to keep pressing forward? Would you like a short break? Okay, let's take a short break then, and we'll come back. I'll look for us in about 15 minutes. With item number 20, this is the discussion of prohibiting commercial vehicles from using certain streets and parking in certain areas within the San Angelo city limits and any action in connection thereto. I have a presentation by our city engineer, Clinton Bailey.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. This item was requested by Councilman Morrison a couple of council meetings ago, and what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about what our San Angelo City Ordinance requires as far as prohibiting commercial vehicles using streets within the city limits and parking within certain residential areas in San Angelo. And just generally, under the traffic regulations article in our ordinance, we have a couple of different sections that deal with commercial vehicles, which we define a commercial vehicle as a vehicle weighing over 3.5 tons, which is over 7,000 pounds, from using certain streets listed in our ordinance. We have a list of 40 streets where these commercial vehicles are prohibited from using these streets except for making local deliveries. And to give you an example, and I'm not picking on any one person in town here, I'll give you several examples. Off of Foster Road next to Reese Albert Construction, all of the side streets, Avenue X, Y, and Z between Foster and Bryant, those are all designated no truck routes, except if you're making a local delivery. So those big trucks that pull into and out of those commercial areas like that cannot use those streets to get to their primary route. In that case, it would be Bryant, either north or south, or Loop 306, say. Another example is Meadow Drive between Mimosa and 2105. That's a cut-through route right there that was identified because of the heavy trucks traveling right there, and that's another restricted area except for deliveries. Now, regarding parking, we do not allow the parking of commercial vehicles in residential areas in San Angelo unless it's for a business, and then it is very restrictive. If it's a home business, we have limited deliveries. I think we limit that to 2 times per week. But that truck trailer, for instance, that someone uses for work, they cannot park that on their property or on the street in residential streets or streets bordering residential areas in town. When I started looking at the San Angelo ordinance, I started looking at other cities that have similar traffic. I looked at Midland and Odessa, and they do things just a little bit differently than we do. They have a statement in their ordinance which prohibits commercial vehicles from using any street in the city except those designated truck routes or local truck routes. And then they can only be used if they're making deliveries. The truck routes, the primary routes, the major highways, TxDOT maintained roads and so forth are the truck routes, and the local truck routes are more of the major roadways that connect directly to those. So they are a little bit more restrictive in that they don't allow that commercial vehicle to use just your residential street within San Angelo. We don't have that statement in our ordinance. So that's a little bit open, but I haven't, as I've started looking at this, I haven't really seen a lot of big trucks just cutting through random neighborhoods. It's mainly those areas where you have a commercial development adjacent to a neighborhood. And in a lot of those cases, we do have those signs up. We've seen a lot of recent activity, the establishment of these construction yards and so forth, where these large commercial vehicles use these parcels of land for delivery of materials outside of San Angelo. So we're seeing an increase of this in some areas. Our ordinance currently does allow the city council to direct staff to look at these areas and perform a study and bring back to you our recommendation for designating these segments of roads for no truck traffic. So that's just in a nutshell kind of an overview of the city of San Angelo requirements and what a couple of other cities that
Could I
have
get
that
Nathan
type of
up here
traffic.
so I can open this file? It will not open, and I wanted to read the attachments.
And I've talked to our police chief, Chief Vasquez, a little bit about how many citations we've given folks using commercial vehicles in town recently and what the history is over the last 5 years. He says there hasn't been a significant increase in those citations. I was not able to get my hands on that information in total, but he said it hasn't been eye-raising. I have James Flores from Code Enforcement that deals with parking in neighborhoods, and I know that's been just a little bit more of an issue.
I guess we hang on a second. Looks like folks are having trouble getting to the
Okay.
attachment.
How'd she do it? Wish. Oh. No, but I need to watch her. How'd you do it? Oh, you're editing away. Bingo. Okay.
Okay. No, I'm fine. Yes, Mr. Morrison, is his habit, you had asked for this, so how about if you walk us through and go from there, okay?
I'd like a sign like that on Cauley Lane, because we have this, we are getting the same problem out there that we spoke about on Meadow, and that people are coming up from 87 and they're cutting through 67, or they're cutting through 208, and they're taking my new super highway between Grape Creek and 208, my Lakeview Heroes Drive. And we just need to get these big trucks, because there's so much oil field activity on 87 now, and Cauley Lane's about 18 foot wide, no shoulders, and it's an old road, and these big trucks are really causing some problems. So I'd just like to get one of those signs on Cauley Lane, especially there at the Fruitland Farm side, maybe on the Grape Creek side, to prevent these trucks from using us as a shortcut, because that's what they're beginning to do.
Right.
So get me on the list, please, sir.
Okay, other questions or comments by council? Ms. Farmer?
Just a comment, I've seen the signs, they just say no truck traffic. That's all it says.
It says no truck traffic. Right. It shows over 3.5 tons, except for delivery, which is consistent with the verbiage in the
And
ordinance.
another little line
Local-
said, if violation, call and give them a phone number.
Right. That'd be a good idea. And that.
I'm serious about giving them a phone number, because people who don't want the 18-wheelers, on their residential streets, and I don't blame them, but they don't know who to call, and they can call every department in the city before they get the right one.
Right.
Aren't they supposed to call the police, or do they call code enforcement?
Those would be probably the two that they would call.
The
Yes.
police department doesn't have a textable, or there's nothing, you can't call in a crime or text in a crime or a violation, a live one. You can say, I suspect something, they'll get to it 2 hours later and look into it. You can do that with Nixle. You can just text back and tell them what's going on. It's anonymous. They're going to work on, I talked to Ms. Gonzalez yesterday. They're going to work on a system, in conjunction with the 911 system. You can text in, this truck is here right now, and they'll come get them. But it's not current. You have to call in the police department to the non-emergency number, put it in your phone, and it's cumbersome, and they don't mind it coming in, but that's the only way to really get to it.
And I think it's fairly clear where these types of issues are beginning to develop, and the community is generally pretty good at bringing these types of things to our attention. And we can see a lot of this, with respect to the street deterioration and things like that. So we do receive a lot of those phone calls as well, and we direct a lot of those calls to the police department or we'll bring the issue in front of the council to address it that way.
I had Mr. Silvas next, and then Mr. Hirschfeld.
Clinton, I had a gentleman call me a couple of weeks ago who, and this is my question, whether there's any kind of wiggle room, because he drives an 18-wheeler, lives in a street south of town, Avenue X, Y, Z, one of those, between Ben Ficklin Road and Bryant, or 87. There's like maybe 2 houses on his road. Comes in late at night, drives an 18-wheeler, comes in late at night, leaves early in the morning. So he had been parking there for 16 years, he says, and now he got a verbal warning, asked me what the law was, and I think AJ or somebody told me. So there's no way he can just park late at night and leave early in the morning, is my question.
Unless he's limiting that to a very few instances a week where he can claim that as a home occupation, it's restricted in our ordinance.
Well, all he told me was he comes in 8, 9 o'clock at night, parks, and leaves at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So
right.
I don't see where there would be, and I guess the issue is maybe safety for safety vehicles or fire trucks or something to be able to have access to the road. Is that?
Well, it depending on what materials they're carrying, the ordinance speaks to tranquility of the residential neighborhoods, excessive noise, excessive traffic, nuisance, fire hazards, things like that, depending on what type of materials you're hauling, and other possible side effects of that commercial traffic. So if someone next door, say, is needs to utilize that street for on-street parking, they can't because an 18-wheeler is parked there, or mail delivery or something like that. I understand that's not an issue in the middle of the night, but just generally those items, just to try to preserve that peace and quiet of the neighborhood.
And I never heard what became of it, so I was just curious to see if there was any kind of wiggle room. So,
Mr. Hirschfeld?
Are there any criteria that you would make, that you could make definitions on how this works? I guess the thing that concerns me a little bit is and no offense to Mr. Morrison's request on that, but it could be arbitrary things that, well, I don't want someone on mine, so now I want you to put it on my street. You know, I guess I go back to what we do with traffic lights and stop signs and such like that, that there is a criteria. And I realize that's a little bit different, but I would rather see a more structured criteria that, that this is what has to happen, and some kind of quantification that it's justified.
Okay, also such that staff could just do it. In
Exactly.
other words, it wouldn't,
instead of
it wouldn't-
having to come to council.
Yeah, it wouldn't come to council because you would have a set of criteria, and when you got a complaint, you would go establish the criteria is met or not. You'd
right.
make your judgment, be done.
What we have to be careful of is that we don't restrict business and don't restrict access there, depending on where you
Well, and
where
I'll
you
go
develop.
to the example around Hirschfeld, because I know that was placed up there.
Right.
And we respect it, and we don't do that, and I know it was set up for Hirschfeld.
Right.
To restrict us from driving through there, and that's fine. So
What's good for one's good for all.
that's right. So it really is, I think you'll find as long as there is some kind of acknowledgement and understanding that, like at Hirschfeld, it's right in the middle of a block, and you've got a short section of a block that you need to control, but the rest of it, we have to have access to. So as long as that is taken into account, then it shouldn't be a problem or an issue.
Okay, further input? Okay. I heard you say that under the ordinance, you could be asked to study a certain environment and look at it, and that's what Mr. Morrison just said.
Yes, sir.
And then I also heard, though, that you might take a look at the ordinance and maybe visit with the police chief and Mr. Flores and see if there's anything about criteria that you might want to think through and bring back at a future date.
Okay. Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move to item number 21. This is the consideration of granting a request for temporary placement of a mobile home, not to exceed 1 year, during construction of a permanent home on the same 3-acre site. This is at 1105 West 48th Street, And we have a presentation today by our Interim Director of Development Services, AJ Favre.
Good morning, everyone. This is a request for a mobile home permit. We don't hear a lot of these, but to refresh your memory, you do have a mechanism within the ordinance that is intended to allow for temporary placement, again, during construction of a permanent home on the premises. So it is a conditional type of permit. We do send notifications for this type of request, and so we sent 10 notifications, and we received 1 in favor, 0 in opposition to the request. The property in question is a 3-acre lot, which is located just east of the intersection of North Bryant Boulevard and West 48th Street. So again, this is in far north San Angelo, heading out of town towards Grape Creek. And here's a closer look at that lot. Again, it is a 3-acre lot, so it's fairly sizable, and it's currently undeveloped. So you'll notice a lot of growth when we look at the pictures. The one response in favor was from a property owner, catty corner across the street. Again, we received no notifications in opposition to this request. Just a couple of photographs. This is looking west down 48th Street, and so the lot in question is here to the left. And then this is looking eastward, so again, the property is now on your right side. And then this is looking directly at the property. So again, it's mostly vegetation. There's a trailer parked there, but there's no development on the side at this time. The proponent actually came in and is requesting a little less than a year. They have intentions to move very aggressively towards the timeline of having the home built, and so they're actually requesting a 7 to 8 month time period. So it seems to us that the applicant does have the intentions of moving this forward fairly quickly. We've had a couple of requests like this in the last 2 to 3 years, and we do monitor the 1-year time period very closely, and we have successfully worked enforcement on these in the past. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you now.
And the one condition?
The one condition is that we are limiting them to the time that they requested.
Thank you. Is there any question on this or a motion? Ms. Farmer?
AJ, I know that we try to follow the rule to follow up, but I can cite 2 cases right here downtown where we allowed a mobile home supposedly for 1 year. It's been 5, 6 years ago. Those mobile homes are still there. Offices were never built. What's to keep this one from ending up just like the 2 before, that the mobile homes are, and 2 of those, for instance, are on Sherwood Way, Beauregard and then Sherwood Way.
Okay, I don't know of any. This is for residential use only, so permits don't apply for placement of mobile homes in commercial districts.
Well, it just so happened that the city missed the 1 year, and when I brought it up again and looked at it, something had been done and permits didn't catch it, and there's nothing we can do now. Those 2 mobile home structures are still there, and it's been 5, 6 years. So
Charlotte,
tell me why this won't happen.
Charlotte, where is that? I'm just curious.
One of them is right before you cross the river at the bridge on the right, and the other one is across the bridge between there and the Y on the left.
And these are in residential areas?
Yes.
Okay, I've not been
One
made
of them
aware
does
of
not,
these.
does not border residential, but the second one on down does.
Okay, we will have to look at the property. Again, if it's commercially zoned, then that's not a violation, and so.
They came in, did the same thing that we're doing right now to be 1 year.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I haven't been made aware of either of those. We'll be happy to look into those.
Ambleside, yeah.
Okay. I know you heard the question. Now,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison, acknowledge you, please.
I know the people across the street from this, and I also know the man that's been trying to sell this property for several years. There won't be a problem with it staying there more than a year, because you will be notified if it stays there. But I don't see a problem with this. It's a nice lot. They're building a house. I don't have a problem with setting a nice mobile home there for maximum of 1 year. I'll make the motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve as presented. Further questions from council? Okay. Do I have public input on this item? Okay. Did you change your mind, sir?
AJ, why he's walking up on previous, I know we did one here a number of years ago. Do you guys, I guess, now keep tab of the 1 year period?
We actually do an annual audit.
Okay.
And we did that at Ms. Farmer's request a few years ago.
I remember one being over here on the east side of town, And I assume maybe after
It
a
was
year.
just off of Roosevelt or whatever.
Yes, Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that's
No,
been,
I'm
well,
sorry,
it's
I do
been about
not.
2 or 3 years, but
Yeah.
I mean, the time frame would have passed, and we
Sure.
hope it's been dealt with, right?
Okay.
Good morning.
Hi.
My name is Ken Roxvold. I'm the individual that's going to build a house on that property. I'm from North Dakota originally. A mobile home to me is not an RV, a fifth wheel. I don't know if you have different terminology here, but what I had planned on parking there was a king of the road fifth wheel. And it would be lived in until the house is completed, which I believe my date was the 1st of February, something like that. So it's not a trailer house, which is what we call a mobile home. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, sir. Any questions for the gentleman? Okay, sir.
Thank
We're
you for
good.
your time.
We have a
I
motion
appreciate
and a
it.
second to approve as presented. Let me call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A 5-to-1 vote. Okay. Let's move to item number 22. This is the first public hearing in consideration of introducing an ordinance amending the allocation method of the hotel occupancy tax and related matters. And presentation today by our Assistant City Manager, Michael Dane.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Recall, please, that we have been discussing the management and use of occupancy tax here in the city. And specifically, we've had discussions about the contract with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And today, we want to talk about the ordinance which authorizes or controls how those monies are allocated. Currently, those monies are allocated based on percentages identified in the ordinance. What we're proposing today is language which allows council to delegate and by contract with organizations for activities. Specifically, that language reads, the city council by contract may delegate to a person, including other governmental entities or private organization, the management or supervision of programs and activities funded with revenue from the tax authorized by this article. In essence, what that frees council to do is to allocate based on where they see the benefit most accruing to the city for use of these funds. So that is what is proposed here today, and this is the introduction of that ordinance.
Questions for him? Motion, please.
Motion. So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Morrison, a second from Mr. Hirschfeld to approve as presented. With no further questions, do I have public input on this item? We call for this vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
item number 23. This is the discussion and update on the housing data obtained by the Hotel Community Housing Committee members. And this is a committee that's been at work recently, and we have a presentation today by City Manager Daniel Valenzuela.
Mayor, council members, really just an update to let you know what's going on as far as the meetings that we've had. You do have a copy in front of you. We've had meetings on February 25th and on March 6th. At this point, we have 26 members on this committee. It's very well received, a lot of participation. One thing that we did is to develop the priorities that we wanted to address. And the three that we're focusing on, even though others did come up, we realized that the three we really needed to make sure we addressed was to make sure that we focused on the single-family residential, multifamily, and also temporary housing. What we're doing right now as far as the action steps is we have the 26-member committee. We're breaking those down to subcommittees to address the individual priorities. One group, of course, will address the single family, another group the multifamily, and another will address the temporary housing. I will be facilitating these meetings. Basically, what we want to do as far as the next steps is make sure that we develop the plan, the action steps, and the performance measurements, and make sure that we act on these items. The meetings themselves, there'll be 3 different meetings that will be held. Each meeting will be about 2 hours long for each one of the subcommittees. The members, the 26 members that have attended, will be assigned to each one of the priorities based on where their interests lie. At this point, the notes I've also included on her some of the concerns that were expressed, and also some of the stakeholders that have been represented at these meetings. We've had the Apartment Association, the WTOS, Association of Realtors, the Home Builders Association. We've got bankers, electric providers, media, and of course, council members and staff also. As what's come out of the meetings as far as informational is that currently the homes on the market are currently receiving multiple offers. There's a lady also that comes to our meetings. Her name is Linda Parker. She's actually does a relocation for individuals coming into our area. She did mention that for those individuals who are looking for homes and actually have been approved, there's not a problem finding those homes. She talked about Midland, that hasn't been an issue for her. Then you do need to know the number of houses that are being built, and what she also does is educate the companies as far as housing availability. Apartment rentals at this point, they're at about around 95% occupancy, so there is a concern that there is going to be a shortage of apartments in the near future. One thing that came out of the meeting also was a concern for elderly individuals and low-income individuals that have been maybe renting for years apartments. And I know that's from experience now that I do live in an apartment temporarily. Met a lot of great individuals that have been in their apartments for many years now, and they definitely can't afford the escalating prices. So that's something that was brought up that we'll be addressing also. There's a concern also as far as tract builders coming in and building similar generic type homes. As far as quality concerns, that we wanted to make sure that we monitor that, make sure that the homes that are being built are good quality. Information, of course, the stakeholders are asking that we provide enough information for them, especially the home builders, to make sure that they have an understanding of what the demand is for those homes. One thing that came from the meetings as far as from the builders, they feel that they're prepared for the growth, that they can actually answer the need for the growth. But what they need is more information from the city to make sure that we're providing from, how many lots at this point are being developed, how many new homes have actually been applied for as far as permitting and so forth. So that's all information that we're putting together for them. There was a concern as far as banks working closely with developers. We had a few of the bank people show up to the last meeting, which is great. I think that there's going to be some really good participation as far as all of them working together. Concern that was brought up also just to make sure that our permitting process is maximized as far as its efficiency, to make sure that we are expediting that process. I know that AJ Falver and her staff have been meeting to see what they actually can do to make sure they can expedite the process, eliminate anything that any steps in the process that are not necessary. So that's something that we're working on at this point. Again, the major concern, of course, is just for smart growth, making sure that we don't start looking like a boom city, oil boom city, and that we actually have control over what's going on. Again, there's been some great participation, some great discussions in these meetings. As I mentioned a while ago, the next step is just to schedule and get those individuals into the subcommittees and actually develop that plan and the action steps and the performance measurements.
Mr. Hirschfeld, again, as is custom, you requested the item, so how about if you walk us through it?
I really just wanted to kind of hear an update on where things were going, and it's becoming a hot issue and a hot topic, so I just think it was appropriate to hear that. And if there's anything that we need to be addressing early on, I mean, I'm just saying that's something we probably need to target sooner rather than later.
Sure.
But so that was just my thoughts.
Okay. Do you have questions for Mr. Valenzuela?
I do have a comment. I got a call from my planning commission member, Bill Wynn, yesterday.
Okay.
He said they looked at a location for an RV park, but it was really long-term, over 30 days, so it really is not an RV park. So it looked good. They couldn't approve it because there is no provisions in our ordinance that they could bring to him to say this is going to be longer than 30 days. It's just not there. He says, y'all don't have it. You need to look at that. We can't approve anything or do anything without it. So we made some adjustments to our ordinances to define what is an RV park, 30 days or less, travelers, visitors, vacation, versus somebody staying longer. And then what's the regulations that go along with it? If they stay longer, what do we do? I have a lot of ideas there, but we're going to have to look at it.
Okay.
Well, and I guess one more topic, kind of expanding on what Paul's saying, is that I think it's appropriate for some of these topics that are hot, that we do need to get those addressed, because what we don't need is a planning commission approving something and then it coming here and getting overturned. Because if we're going to stake a position on something, I think we need to give them direction on what that is. So why waste the time on everyone doing something and then it getting overturned? Or if they approve something, we turn it down, or they turn it down and it gets brought back to us and we approve it. It just
clarity of communication.
Clarity of
and-
communication.
yeah.
So again, to help expedite the entire process of whatever that may be, to have that clarity and driven forward.
Okay, Ms. Farmer and then Mr. Morrison.
I'm probably pretty simple-minded, but to me, an ideal RV park to alleviate all of the problems and the questions is out at the city farm, to make some spaces available, especially since this could be a short-term boom, could be. And then we wouldn't have all the elaborate parks or non-elaborate parks all over town. But something out at the city farm puts everything in one place. It's easier to police, and it's easier to keep the noise traffic out of right in a residential section and area, and it's good access to a highway for these things pulling on and off a main thoroughfare. I really think we should give some serious thought to that. The other thing, looking at the attendees on this list, I did not see anyone from the military housing office. And, the base has been wonderful in the apartment community, the rental community, and renting houses, and I think it is very important that we include them, find out what their needs are, what their expectations are, and I can tell you from my own personal experience that they have a good bunch of renters out there, and it would be ashamed if we did not recognize the quality of renters that they have, and we need to include them on these meetings, the housing office.
Okay. Mr. Morrison?
And I agree with what Charlotte said about the city land out there. We need to keep these things together. These areas, these parks where people are going to be living for a longer period of time. I also would like, and I've been to several of the planning meetings, and I know what they've been going through. It's been a problem. And maybe if it was possible, if we could get maybe a joint meeting set up with the planning and also with the city council and with AJ and kind of go over some ideas, because they're caught between a rock and a hard place, and they can't make a decision without our help. So
And it's not fair to them.
it's
or
not
to
fair to
us.
them or to us. So if we could maybe
public.
schedule a couple-hour meeting.
Okay, hang on just a second. Do you have anyone in your subcommittees that's specifically working on RV-related issues?
Well, we have, of course, AJ is on our committee also. She was there at our last meeting. So we do have a group that's working on that.
Well, the reason I'm asking about it is it might be good if they did some homework on things done in other communities, things done, in other words, if you have a subcommittee do some work that is followed by, and I don't mean 100 days from now, but I mean they get their work done, and then we have that followed by this requested co-meeting, so that some of the thoughts and some of the vetting has been done, so
Gotcha.
that I don't want to meet with the planning commission and sit there and brainstorm what we ought to do. What I'd
Gotcha.
rather do is have staff do some work ahead of time, or a subcommittee of your group do some work ahead of time, and when we do have that type of meeting, have a presentation about, here are some ways people have handled RV parks and how we could look at this.
And I
Okay?
do want to mention, we've already started that work, and we've already tentatively selected a date for a joint session.
Okay.
So
I
we're
just-
already down that road,
You're doing
and we'll be
great stuff
keeping
then,
you
because we
involved.
get to do the work, do the vetting, do the
Mhm.
preparation, then have the meeting. No reason to meet and then
Right.
and then brainstorm with each
And that
other.
matches what we're planning, so we'll keep that.
Okay, and Mr. Silvas?
A couple of things. Talking about RV parks, I was in Midland a couple of weeks ago, and there was some of these camps. I'm not going to call them man camps, but these camps. And you talk about it looking blighted. It was pretty bad. So I hope we're feeding off of that and not going in that direction. Secondly, one thing that stood out was, Daniel, on these escalating lease prices, and I just hope that the elderly or the low income aren't in jeopardy of some of these oil people coming in and being outpriced, or these folks being booted out because somebody's willing to pay a higher lease. I just hope that doesn't happen, and that's what I wanted to share with you.
Could we give discounts to Tom Green County registered voters?
All that's going to be discussed by the subcommittee that'll be addressing the concern, so that's a thought.
Okay, do I have other thoughts on this? All right, thank you for the presentation. Do I have public input on this item? It's a discussion item, so, hi.
Greg Myers with WTOS, and have been meeting with this particular committee. In response to what Mr. Hirschfield said about the council itself getting ahead of the game, I think that's pretty important in regard to the issue of low-income folks that are going to be impacted. I think from what I heard from all the different voices in those meetings is that a great many of the things that have been mentioned will be and can be handled by the market forces and the governance of the body here. What I have seen in Midland, and I've been going over there every week servicing a church for quite a few months, and I talked to a lot of people that are involved with this. What I've understood over there is that while it's not easy, wages go up. As people leave Walmart to go to the oil field, Walmart has to pay more to get folks from Burger King. And I mean, there's just a momentum there that serves itself, and it seemed that the building contractors, home builders, were pretty sure that they could handle the load of increasing the housing stock as it goes along. What I see is that there is no current mechanism designed to meet the needs of low-income people because they are not a part of that market force. If you're getting $900 a month to live on from Social Security, and that's all you have, it doesn't make any difference what happens in the market. If somebody, the owner of the house you're renting, fixes it up a little bit, subdivides it, and get more than you're paying from both sides of that, you really don't have any place to go. And I've been talking to Bob Salas a little bit about what kinds of resources there are. There are some possible shortcuts and gaps that can be used to give emergency assistance. But in the long run, this is something where new resources, PHA, the council, block grant monies, all kinds of different things may have to be accessed in ways that they've never been used before. And I think that this is probably going to hit some folks early on, and I think that's something that the council as a whole needs to be thinking about as you look at what's going to happen in the next 6 to 18 months in town. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You don't walk to Midland, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Further public comment on this item? Okay, this is a discussion item, so there's no action to be taken at this time on this one. What I need to know, do we have items for executive? Yeah. Okay. Folks, we do have items for executive committee that need to be dealt with, so I'm going to take us into executive session at this time and then bring us back after that. At this time, the council will go into executive session under the provision of the Government Code Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A, Open Government Chapter 551, Open Meetings, Subchapter D, exceptions to the requirement that meetings be open, under Section 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and under Section 551.087 to discuss economic development negotiations. So it is currently 11:05, and we will go into executive session at this time. 12:12, and so bringing us back out of executive session and calling us back into regular session at this time and opening the meeting. The next item is item number 24. There was nothing that required action. And item number 25 is the Planning Commission board nomination. It's Valerie Press, who's in mortgaging. That
motion to approve.
Most of you would know.
Second.
So, okay, I have a motion and a second to approve her for the Planning Commission. And any question on that? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay. The next piece of information is the consideration of nominating city council members to serve as a representative on the Concho Valley Council of Government General Assembly. Okay, and I think Ms. Ramirez may need to give us a little bit of heads up on what that is and who that is.
Okay, let me.
Should beat us in here.
This is for the Council of Governments General Assembly. Sorry, I'm out of breath.
It's just part of our wellness program.
There you go. We have we can have up to 3 members on this board. Right now, we have 2, and they are, hold on. Just wait. Okay, this would be to replace Fred Adams. Right now, Ms. Farmer is appointed to the General Assembly. And like I was saying, we can have up to 3 appointees on this assembly. So I either need a nomination for 2 or 1 person.
So Ms. Farmer is on.
She is on.
Aren't you on?
And
No, okay,
executive?
he's executive on the
So this
executive
is-
committee.
This is not a specific board over there. This is just the General Assembly
Yep.
position.
They
Okay.
have
the
representatives from
transit-
the 12 regional.
I'm on the transit, Transa, on that commission.
Okay, that's
It
a
seems
that's
like
a
the same
different.
thing.
Right, but that's a different board. There's 2 commissions. One is the Concho Valley Transit District, the other one is the General Assembly under the Council of Governments.
It
2
seems
different.
similar enough to
Well, let
say
me-
that if you're on one, you could be on the other and fit right in, and know the people, and or
Right.
if you want to learn new
What it
people.
really, right. What this really is when the whole body comes together. For instance, last week, they all came together to consider whether or not to admit Edwards County into this Council of Governments and take them out of the south middle Council of Governments. Edwards County is close to Mason County, is close to Kimball County, who are all in our group. Okay, and they wanted to leave the one they were in and come into this one, and so that took a
Well,
General Assembly
The city
vote.
doesn't, and the chamber doesn't, but everybody else does. The majority of the people want to come into the Concho Valley group.
Okay, and so, so the issue, well, the point again being that that took a General Assembly vote. That was
Yes.
not going to be a one of the committees. It took everybody's input to say yes or no on that, okay? And so that's really the only kind of issue this would be. If you're on, I think it makes sense that you might also just be part of the General Assembly.
Yeah,
I
they
do
would go,
think-
they would go together real well.
Anyway, who is on a committee at the Council of Governments? Ms. Farmer is, Mr. Silvas is, Mr. Alexander is, I am, but I would think it might make sense to nominate Mr. Silvas to the General Assembly based on his outcome in the election is a little more
What's that this
A little more sure.
assured.
You might win this election.
Than anyone
You might
else.
be. You never
And then you might do some more after that. So how do you feel about that, Mr. Silvas?
I'll
Let's
second
nominate
that.
Mr. Silvas and get a second from Mr. Hirschfeld, and then let me get a vote.
Can I just say, maybe if I win my election, I'll serve?
Attaboy. Okay. And so, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Announcements and consideration of future agenda items.
It's getting longer and longer. Ha ha, no. The, Mr. Mayor, I had asked James Flores to work with the builders, or went through Daniel on this, to work with them about an amendment on a mowing contract of vacant lots, and James has finished the work, and I'd like to see it placed on the next agenda to be presented by James Flores after meeting with various builders and James on the subject.
Okay, let's see some notes being taken. Other items for future agenda?
I already mentioned it, but we need more definition with RV parks versus longer-term type parks.
Yeah, I think I
And-
appreciate it. Let's go ahead and just codify. We really did get that done earlier, but
Okay.
we asked them to get the subcommittee to do the work on RV parks and what
Okay.
other cities have done, other communities have done, and then bring together a co-meeting of planning and and the council so that we can nail
So
that
we've
down.
already- okay.
So that process is moving forward from.
And maybe the question is, what's our timeline on that?
I had asked him to be somewhere in the 6 to 8 week range, be done with that work, okay? Not the subcommittee work, but we would get back together within the next month on an agenda for the commingling of the two groups. And the group from the city would be able at that meeting to say, here's what we know, here's what you guys could consider.
So maybe the second meeting in April?
Second meeting in April is what I'm describing.
That's as quick as we can do that? I mean,
Trying to
all-
do it faster than that. No, I mean,
I'll-
as far as the subcommittees right now,
Well,
we'll
it's
be
only
meeting-
two weeks.
That work's been done.
Yeah, well, the subcommittee work itself, I mean, we'll be meeting this week, and we're depending on if we can get everybody together, and next week also, so we should have a lot of the majority of the work done by the end of next week, actually, so.
Today's the 18th, though, and the first meeting in April is about the second.
It's right around.
That's what we were planning it for, was the second.
You see what I'm saying? And so the 18th to the 2nd, I don't think you get all of that done. I think it's the second meeting in April that we have a co-meeting with the planning group. That's just the reality of how it takes time to get work done.
I just don't want it to be scheduled for the second meeting and then it get pushed to the next and.
We should be able to
You know,
get together with this in the
I
second
think
meeting.
this needs to be a priority item that, it's back where we need to have a cohesive understanding of where we all see things.
And to have
Okay,
two-
so what, I mean, again, Mr. Valenzuela, what you're hearing is, it'd be nice if we could have everything done and meet on the second. If that can't be done effectively, we don't want to meet later than the second meeting in April with the planning commission with all this RV stuff vetted out. So,
Okay.
Okay?
Correct.
And if I just could mention something in the way of, you know, the city's in the business doing the city, not RV parks, but if there can be a privatization somehow worked out, or a group or someone approached by, now that might be a little quick
Well, it's
to
almost
get
a
in.
bidding process, though.
Yes.
You know,
I don't want to
mean,
do a bidding process,
You'd have to,
though.
but I mean, you just about have to do a bidding process on city land under the law, so.
Yeah, you would.
If you said, you want to do something on the city farm, I mean, I
Yeah.
think you'd have to put up a request for proposal. And Other things for
I've got a
future
couple of
agenda?
things.
Okay.
I visited with Sheriff Jones yesterday, and I had asked for that, and I forgot the synthetic marijuana, what is it called?
K2?
K2. I want to know, now I'm curious to see how they were able to issue warrants or whatever they did, because I thought our hands were tied.
Me too.
And I had asked for that item to be on there here one day soon. There was a big,
Simplistic, I think it would be good if Chief Vasquez presented the case on K2 of what we can or can't do, or, because I'm in agreement with you on that. I
We
felt
passed-
like we were up against a wall.
Well, we passed an ordinance.
Yes.
right?
That made synthetic marijuana products illegal. What I think Chief Vasquez has said is that the chemical compounds keep changing such that he's concerned that the ordinance doesn't give him enough space. I don't know. But
Advised council and chief, time and time again, that state law has now criminalized K2. We don't have jurisdiction over Class B misdemeanors. So we just don't have
It's a-
jurisdiction, and
So what do
I
we
was
do?
looking with chief into perhaps, and he was speaking with Drew Darby, to look at funding for the state crime lab to then assist the prosecutions at the county level. They're not, we don't have jurisdiction.
What happened, though, so it's not jurisdiction, it's a funding issue. Testing the product they seize costs a lot of money too much, and they couldn't test. They couldn't keep. Why other cities can keep up with like San Antonio, I don't know.
Okay, but here's the thing, is that, I mean, if this is an issue between the city and the county, then let's deal with it as an issue between the city and the county.
Okay. Well,
Because if it's happening in our city, in our jurisdiction, yet we don't have any control over it, let's work with the entity that does have control.
Right.
That's the point that I
Yeah.
think we're trying to
Right,
get to.
that's been the
Is
suggestion.
there has got to be some kind of solution on this thing beyond just,
That we might could
we
help
can't do
fund it.
anything.
And Ms. Bowling, I understand what you're saying, but what I'm curious is, what allowed our sheriff's department yesterday to make the 11 arrests? What did they go with? How were they
And
able
if we
to
need
do
to
that?
help the sheriff,
Exactly.
Right, well,
And-
the police-
And that's what I'm trying to get, it's just
The
clarification on.
cases would not be filed as Class C misdemeanors, and so I think we were talking about what could we effectuate with a city ordinance which only has criminal jurisdiction over Class Cs. So we put the city regulation aside, and then we look at what our police department does to file appropriate cases at the appropriate jurisdictional level, which would be at the county or perhaps at the district attorney's office. So we can, as a law enforcement agency, make those arrests.
Sure.
But it would be under the state Contraband Act, under a different law, just as we make arrests for higher classes of offense every day. They're not Class Cs. And then we file them appropriately with the county or the district attorney's office.
Now turn this into a future agenda item.
Yes, as a future agenda item, I'm curious to see, even if we can add some kind of a nuisance part to it. You know, that's what I'm looking at, because something happened yesterday that allowed them to make the arrest of these individuals. And I don't know what happened. I'm just trying to get clarification on that.
All I
Okay.
can tell you is I got 2 phone calls, one last night, one this morning. Wanted to know why our police department wasn't involved.
I understand that. And the other thing I had was, and I believe in February, we were going to slice and dice the Republic Services contract and see where we're at on that. Are we looking, or what are we doing?
The contract itself is just one of those items that it does need to be thoroughly reviewed. I know that's something that I already talked with Shane, that we'll be taking a look at the Republic contract to determine exactly, what the next step will be.
Okay.
So that's something that'll be under review here very soon. But again, I know that Shane is something that he's already started on, that I'll be starting on also. So we can come back.
Also,
with
you need
that.
to be describing what all you want, not just about that contract, but I mean, that's a complicated issue. What are we going to do about recycling? What are we going to do about who owns the landfill or
Correct,
not?
correct.
What are we going to do about who collects the trash?
Correct.
So I
All
mean,
of
there-
the above, yeah.
you
And
know,
I think
there's-
we need to go back into those discussions as soon as we can.
The whole deal is just to make sure that we have something in place well beforehand, before the expiration of the contract, and make sure that we have a good understanding what our
And
next
wh-
step is going
when
to be.
whether
So-
you're going to go to request for proposal from
Correct.
other entities and all on and on. So that one does have a lot of work.
Okay.
And for me, I want to make sure that I'm getting a good look at the revenue growth from some of the decisions we've made. Okay?
Absolutely.
So the revenue growth line on franchise tax, a 2 or 3 year look at where was it 2 years ago, where was it last year, where is it now, because we've made changes in rates. And so I'd like to see those funds that are revenue funds related to the general fund. I'd like to see about a 3-year growth vehicle on all of those types of funds, so that we have an idea what we can afford to do with the property tax.
Okay.
And we've changed user fees that affect the general fund, and we've changed the franchise fee that affects the general fund. And then if you go ahead and include sales tax in what it's done, it's going to give the council a good solid underpinning for what's going on with funding, so they have some comfort about what should be, considered on property tax. Is there anything else?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Farmer?
Item number 7 on our pending list, I had asked back in August about the COLA and There was work done on it, it's been done on it, and it's still on the pending as to the option to the COLA and an explanation to the council as to how TMRS works and how we affect our decisions to COLA. And I really think it's time that we bring it before the retirees. It's been on here 6 months now. And Michael, it is ready, right? Completed.
As far as I know, it is, yes.
Okay. I would like to see it on the next council meeting.
Okay, anything else? Mr. Morrison?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Let me call for that vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Thank y'all.